Abbaneun Ddal is a Korean movie that was released on February 10th, 2025 on YouTube, but the movie first came out in South Korea in 2017. So now let's get to the review. In the 2017 South Korean film Abbaneun Ddal, translated to Daddy You Don't Tell Me, director Kim Yong-yup revitalized the classic body swap trope by grounding it in everyday emotional struggles and nuanced familial tension. Based on the Japanese novel by Takahisa Igarashi, the films follow a high school senior, Do-yeon, and her emotionally detached father, Won-sung, who mysteriously switches bodies after a freak incident involving a malfunctioning hairdryer. What initially unfolds as comedic premise quickly transforms into a sincere exploration of empathy, generational conflict, unspoken sacrifice, and emotional growth. Through humor and heartfelt storytelling, Abbaneun Ddal delves into the complexity of family dynamics and offers a compelling commentary on the cultural expectations that shape and strain communication between parents and children. At the heart of Abbaneun Ddal lies the powerful narrative device of body swapping, which serves not merely as a plot gimmick but as a profound vehicle for empathy. The switch forces both protagonists to inhabit one another's daily life experiences and emotional burden. Do-yeon, determined and Alice student prepared for her college entrance exam, initially perceived her father as a distant, apathetic, and overly stern being. She viewed adulthood as relatively simple compared to her emotional and academic turmoil. Once in her father's body, however, she confronts the draining demands of adult life, waking up early for work and doing long hours in a rigid and unsympathetic corporate environment, and silently absorbing the financial and emotional weight of supporting a household. Meanwhile, her father, Won-sung, thrust into the chaotic world of high school, experiences the instant social pressure, competitive academic environment, and emotional isolation that defines his daughter's world. It witnesses firsthand how modern teenage life is shaped by peer comparison, pressure to perform, and her hunger for validation. As the struggle keeps up with the schoolwork and the social codes, he realizes that his daughter's world is not carefree but emotionally exhausting in its own right. Through this mutual role reversal, the film elegantly dismantles the assumptions of both characters had about each other's life, showcasing the limitation of perspective when empathy is absent. Beyond the theme of empathy, Abbaneun Ddal subtly critiques traditional gender and family roles, especially those prevalent in the South Korean society. The film challenges the stereotypes surrounding masculinity, femininity, and intergenerational authority, In Korean family structures, the father is often seen as the financial provider and moral authority, while children, particularly daughters, are expected to be compliant and academically successful. This norm can create emotional distance within households and lead to misunderstandings that further over time. The body swap disrupts this role in a compelling way. Doyon, now in a male body, must navigate a male-dominated workplace where she learns how little room there is for emotional expression and how much performatic strength is expected from men. In contrast, Wong Song, in his daughter's teenage body, faces vulnerability, scrutiny, and the discomfort of being underestimated. He experiences being objectified and emotionally exposed, sensation that forces him to confront the privilege and blind spot of his former perspective as a male adult. These experiences do not radically reverse their belief overnight, but lay the foundation for introspection and behavioral change. The film also suggests that traditional notions of authority do not guarantee moral superiority or emotional intelligence. One song, to a father, does not automatically have all the answers, and his emotional repression only harms the relationship he cares most about. By the end of the film, both characters adopt more fluid and flexible understandings of their identity and was not through didactic lessons but through lived experience. Academic pressure is a recurring theme in South Korean cinema, particularly in youth-centered stories, and Abbaneun Ddal captured this anxiety with nuance. Doyon is depicted as an high school. Doyon is depicted as a high-achieving student who suppresses her emotion to meet social and academic expectations. Her identity is closely tied to her performance in school, a pressure exacerbated by her father's own silence and occasional criticism. In many ways, Doyon represents a generation of Korean youth caught in a system that values result over well-being. Through the body swap, her father is exposed to the daily microaggression student faces, the fear of failure, competition between peers, and the constant pressure to present a curated version of oneself to friends, teachers, and parents alike. These pressures are invisible to adults like Won Song, who assume that teenagers today have it easier than previous generations. The film disrupts that narrative and invites the viewer to consider how mental health and emotional resilience are just as essential as academic success. Simultaneously, the movie highlights the emotional labor of fatherhood, often unrecognized and unappreciated. Won Song, in his quiet way, is portrayed as someone who sacrifices continuously but lacks the tools to express emotional support. His long days at work, his concern over finances, and his fear of failure as a parent are all rendered more visible when Doyon must carry that burden in his place. Thus, the film portrays not only the struggle of youth, but the adult world's quiet emotional isolation. Character development is central to the emotional payoff of Abbaneun Ddal. At the beginning of the film, Doyon and her father are deeply disconnected, each treating the other from a distance. However, their body swap journey gradually bridges the emotional chasm between them. This transformation is not rushed. It unfolds through small, meaningful moments, failed presentation, awkward classroom encounters, silence, reflection at home, and interaction with people closest to them. One song's experience in his daughter's body softened him. He became more aware of his own emotional limitation and makes effort to reconnect with his wife and daughter more openly. His renewed attention to his family, especially the acknowledgement of his daughter's needs, marks a significant shift from his earlier rigid persona. Meanwhile, Doyon gains confidence and maturity, realizing that adulthood is not about authority or control, but about compromise, resilience, and emotional strength. The film climax, their return to their original body, is understated but emotionally resonant. Rather than relying on a grand supernatural resolution, the film treats the moment as a metaphor for emotional growth. They return to themselves not because the magic ends, but because they have genuinely changed. Director Kim Yong-yup employs a restrained yet effective visual style throughout the film. The cinematography leans on domestic spaces like homes, classrooms, offices to reflect the everyday nature of the character life. This grounding in realism allows the fantastical body swap element to feel believable rather than absurd. The editing supports the story emotional rhythm, allowing comedic scenes to breathe while lingering on quieter moments of the reflection and vulnerability. The use of music is also subtle, avoiding melodrama instead of swelling orchestral chords. The soundtrack often allows silence or diegetic sound to dominate, emphasizing realism and letting the actors' performances carry the emotions. Particularly strong are the moments when the two main characters speak in voiceover or reflect silently, scenes that offer insight to their internal transformation without relying on exposition. Why Abbaneun Ddal succeeds in delivering emotional insight and social critique, it is not without its flaw. One significant issue lies in the inconsistent tone. At times, the film leads heavily into slapstick comedy, particularly in the early scene following the body swap, which can undercut the more serious emotional beats. The humor, though often effective, sometimes veers into cliches, relying on gender jokes or exaggerated performances that risks reinforcing the very stereotype that the film attempts to dismantle. Additionally, the supporting characters are largely undeveloped. Friends, teachers, and co-workers serve mostly as background or as comic relief, rather than as meaningful contributors to the protagonist's journey. This narrow focus, while helping maintain the story emotional clarity, also limits the broader social context the film could have explored. For example, a deeper examination of the workplace sexism, mental health among students, or parents-teacher dynamics could have added greater depth to the film's already rich themes. Finally, the ending provides emotional resolution. It leans sadly towards realism. Real-life parent-child relationship often requires more than a temporary perspective shift to heal long-standing communication gaps. The film could have benefited from a slightly more complex conclusion, one that acknowledged the ongoing work required to sustain empathy and mutual respect within families. In the end, Abbaneun Ddal is a thoughtful and emotional resonant film that offers more than just entertainment. Through its body swap premise, it tackles deeply human theme of empathy, emotional labor, and intergenerational understanding, while without not its tonal inconsistencies and unexplored secondary characters, the film remains a poignant reminder that the people we live with, even our closest family members, often carries burden we fail to recognize. It suggests that the true connection begins not with authority, discipline, or silence, but with the courage to see the world through another's eyes in an increasingly fast-paced and emotionally disconnected world. Abbaneun Ddal offers a quietly powerful lesson that walking in someone else's shoes, even for a little while, can lead to healing, humility, and lasting change. So, my rating for this movie is 9 out of 10. Go watch it. It will give you a good one for your money, especially since you can watch it for free on YouTube.